9 years and counting, Grover Norquist has been carrying the mantle for the Republicans' anti-tax pledge. The pledge is an agreement by lawmakers that they will never raise taxes if elected to public office. The major candidates vying for the GOP nomination in the 2016 elections have pledged to oppose and veto any tax increases if elected, including, most recently, Governor Rick Perry. One notable exception this time around is Jeb Bush. He is expected to announce his candidacy on June 15th, and so far he has refused to sign the pledge. Joining us right now is Grover Norquist. He is the founder of Americans for Tax Reform. And Grover, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Good morning.
So are you surprised that Jeb Bush is refusing to sign?
Well, he didn't sign when he was a governor, and as a governor he actually cut taxes. The challenge is that he said that he won't put in writing that he won't raise taxes. He has made other definitive statements on other issues. It'd be helpful if he'd start by saying, I'll veto any tax increase. He hasn't been willing to do that. So it's not even I have a problem with pledges. His brother took the pledge and kept it. His father took the pledge and broke it.
Yeah, I mean, is it surprising? We ourselves have been running the video today. Read my no new taxes. Everyone remembers that. I can understand why Jeb Bush wouldn't want to be having that juxtaposition placed up against him.
Well, his brothers simply said, you know, when I was governor of Texas, I didn't raise taxes, I cut taxes, I'm signing the pledge, I'm not going to raise taxes. Nobody brought his father's tax increase and used it against George W. Bush. But when Jeb says, I'll leave the door open, then automatically, and has defended in print his father's tax increase, which led to higher spending, not less spending, higher spending. He was promised $2 of spending cuts for every dollar of tax increase, and the Democrats, oddly enough, fooled him. Now, they did the same thing to Reagan 8 years earlier. He might have learned from Reagan getting cheated, but his son should certainly learn from his father. If my dad had thrown away a perfectly good presidency by raising taxes, I think I'd learn from that and decide, don't do that.
Grover, we've known each other for a long time. I certainly respect what you have done in terms of raising the issue of no new taxes. I like you as a person, but I do think that I think some of these people are crazy to sign on. No, I do think some of these are crazy to sign on to something, to put themselves in a position where they have absolutely no flexibility. I know you think that this is liberal media talking, but even Forbes recently came out and said, look, it puts the candidates in a difficult position because it means that they can't compromise to get things that conservatives really want to put into law. It gives them no flexibility. What do you say to that?
Okay, two things. I think that was a columnist at Forbes, not Forbes magazine. But no, it's just the opposite. When we put taxes on the table in 1982, we got all spending increases and tax increases. There was no spending reduction because of the tax increase. In 90, all tax increase, no spending. 2011, we had a majority of the House that had signed the pledge. They told the president, we're not doing tax increases. They got $2.5 trillion of spending restraint, not a dollar of tax increase. We just did the doc fix with $3 trillion reduction in unfunded liabilities, present value of unfunded liability reduction out, no tax increase. We have twice now gotten serious spending restraint in return for no tax increase. So when you take taxes off the table, you get real spending cuts. When taxes are on the table, no spending cuts. History tells us, and reason does as well, that politicians raise taxes instead of governing, instead of reforming government. So if you tell them one option is raising taxes, option two, reform the government, reform entitlements, that gets pushed off the table. So it's exactly those politicians who've said we're not raising taxes that have driven real success at the state level, at the national level. Those that leave the door open get taken.
What we have not seen yet, though, is reform of the corporate tax codes. That it seems like we have both sides who say, yes, we would like to see a reform of the tax codes, starting with the corporate tax codes. And for our audience, that's been very important. I think that part of the problem is that there has been very little flexibility in terms of where you adjust rates, where things might go up in order to get lower rates in other areas.
Well, no, the problem is that the president wants $1 trillion tax increase inside any tax reform. His non-negotiable demand, the boat anchor he attaches to corporate tax reform, is $1 trillion over a decade. Used to be $1.4 trillion. I think he may have compromised. He only wants $1 trillion now. You can't have corporate tax reform and raise $1 trillion and have it be pro-growth. You can, with dynamic scoring, and Ryan and others have put this together in the House and the Senate, that rate should not be 35, it should be 25. That would not lose revenue. The Canadians have 17.5. The French are at 25. Than France is not where we ought to be. There is no trade-off. We should take that rate down. We should go to territoriality. Those would gain revenue because they're so pro-growth.
Grover, I wanted to get your view this morning. I don't know if you read this piece about Marco Rubio and suggestion that he perhaps had some irresponsible spending habits, given that you want us as a country to spend responsibly. Apparently Mitt Romney's campaign, when they were vetting him for vice president, flagged this as an issue. Is it an issue for you?
You know, personal spending or state spending?
In Marco Rubio's case, the article contends that he has a personal spending problem, taking on too much debt.
Okay. I thought the original criticism was he took on student loan debt, which if you don't have any money is sort of the only way you can pay the exorbitant tuition fees. I think his track record as a speaker was quite strong, certainly as a senator has been. His tax reform package would turbocharge the economy, tremendously drop the cost of capital, and make it tremendously better incentives for investment. He's been very specific. He and Mike Lee of Utah have legislation, but also Rand Paul has a flat tax coming out shortly. I was talking to Governor Pataki, who's going to have a very pro-growth, former governor of New York, very pro-growth tax reform. I think we're going to see a lot of Republican plans around a theme: corporate rate down, territorial system, full expensing, and improvements on the capital gains tax.
You know, he had a few traffic tickets, too.
Yeah, I have some of those.
Would that be a problem for you? I think 17, although his wife had 14 of the 17.
I don't have
his
17.
Wife's parking tickets, would that be a problem, you think, for Rubio with you?
No, not as long as he's not going to raise taxes, he can have all the parking tickets he wants.
Okay.
Right. Grover, thank you for joining us, and come and see us in studio soon. It's been too long.
I should love to. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.